hopefully it's going to pay off for them at the end of the day.
Well, the boat noise certainly will affect these fish because it's not that deep. You know, I think that's a big misconception for folks that don't live here when they come up here the first time. This is really shallow fishing for the most part, right? Especially because the rock piles will come. You know, it's such an erratic bottom, I would call it. Just it'll be rocks in 12 feet of water, and all of a sudden, boom, they pop up to 6 feet of water. With the level the way it is right now. So you're idling over the top of these fish, trolling motors going over the top of them. It reminds me of, honestly, being like at Okeechobee. You get just an area that's crowded. When the boats really start moving around, the fish will slow down. But it seems like once folks settle in, kind of figure out the area that they want to be in, they do start biting again after that 10, 11 o'clock hour, because you'll have a few come up here in the first couple hours, and we're already seeing them. They're starting to dissipate some. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still rubber on the rubber for the most part on a couple of these seams, but fish definitely know that there are boats around. They know the deal when they live up here.
Luke, I like that you said erratic bottom.
You like that?
Choice of words up there.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's not grammatically correct in any way, but it sounds erratic bottom.
Luke, I did want to say...
That's my University of North Alabama education, Darian.
Well, I was actually about to say, you went to UNA. Did you go to UNA? You went all 4 years to UNA?
I did, yeah. They did not kick me out, regardless of what my Wikipedia says.
So, I was going to say, Houston's been texting me all morning about fishing, and I know that several UNA guys are fishing this tournament. But it's funny, like this city, specifically if all the UNA fishermen that we know, but the guys who fish here or fish at UNA live in Florence, beautiful city. The place is growing like crazy from the last time I've been here. But, man, these guys just know the river. They know all these little seams. They know, you can see the way that guys come into an area and they're pointing exactly where they're trying to get to. Up there in the current this morning, you can just see these Tennessee river rats just learn, specifically here. I guess it's going to college here. You just get out of school and just go drift.
Well, that's it, because it's time on the water to learn these seams, learn where the isolated rock piles. It's hard to come and just, even with the electronics as good as they are now, to come idle and find this stuff. You really got to find a lot of it fishing, right? It's just time on the water. And a lot of the folks that are the best have just spent years and years and years. But, UNA didn't have a bass fishing team when I was here because I'm old as dirt. But I was 5 minutes from McFarland Park at the house that we rented, and so if I had 30 minutes or 5 hours, I was down here every single spare minute that I had. And man, I learned a lot during those years. And of course, I grew up 45 minutes north of here too, so my dad and I, our club fished here all the time. This is just home. And but when I was at UNA, man, I wore it out, especially right here, like I said, close to McFarland, and that's what so many of those UNA guys do. I would come in between classes, if I had just a little break, I'd take my boat to campus with me, and I'd run down here and fish for an hour within sight of McFarland, and then put it on the trailer, go back to class. And so many of those guys now, they've got one of the best bass fishing teams in collegiate fishing, and are always in the mix all over the country. And if you follow many of them on social media, you understand why. They're on the water, but they're dangerous on this Tennessee River because they're so close. I used to call it Smallmouth University when I was here because of that. And I was the only fishing nerd that was really in the whole school at that point, to be honest. But now it's full of them.
Well, Houston joked about it, and he said, well, dude, when we get out of class, he's like, none of us have gas money to go running all over the lake and practicing, so we just run up to the dam, and they drift all the way down past 7 Mile, just on the same drift, so they're not burning up gas money, crank up and run back up to the dam. And he said, dude, we'll do a drift for 40 minutes straight doing one drift, just so they're not having to run around. But the cool thing is it makes you learn everything. And dude, they were doing drifts out in the dead middle of the river, and I'm like, how'd you figure this out? And he said, well, honestly, we figured out because, Davis broke off, and we're just drifting along and had to learn it.
Drifting aimlessly. There's been a lot of good spots found because of that. I remember Pat Schlapper, Elite Series Pro, won the Federation Nation event down here in the fall 3 years ago, I believe now, and to go to the Classic and all that. And the spot he found, he averaged over 20 a day, all smallmouth in the fall, and he found a spot in the middle of the river like that, truly drifting aimlessly, and was on the phone or something like that, if I remember the story, and happened to get bit out in the dead middle of the river, goes back to it, changes up, puts a heavier swim bait head on, and just went to whacking them for 3 days. So, you know, these fish, they can surprise you. But this bottom, I mean, you look at the banks, and I mean, this is a wild river, right? I mean, before they dammed it, this thing, you see pictures from back in the day, it's crazy. So there's so much structure. That's what makes this lake so special from one end to the other, whether it's ledge fishing in the summertime, the offshore structure, or up here below the dam. I mean, there's plenty for them to hide behind, plenty of places for them to spawn, to get out of the current. But you might catch one in the middle of the river, because a lot of those places too are, you know, 20 feet or less on this end of the lake. So 25 anyways. A lot of fishable water.
Yep.
And for me, coming up here so much, I mean, my dad used to call it the buffet when I was a kid, because you see all the bait fish are up here, it feels like at times. You see so many birds up here feeding. I mean, it's just, the fish are always super fat that you catch close to these dams. It's where the weight comes from in so many tournaments, especially early in the year. Darian, we talked a lot last week at Jordan in the South about forward-facing sonar versus old school fishing, and we had a good mix of both that we witnessed on live last week. And if you're not a forward-facing sonar fan, the view I've got right now is one for you. There's not a lot of live scoping going on up here. It's all meat and potatoes, big spinner baits, jigs, swim baits, scrounger heads. Repeat, rinse and repeat up here.
It's
Now
been
you
the
do
same
see some guys,
wherever
they'll
I've
use
been
that
so far
forward
too.
facing to see the rock piles. Pretty much all you're seeing on that end as well?
Yep, everybody's just meat and potatoes drifting. It looks like it's old school. I mean, it's as old school as you can get. They're not even looking down at their graphs. They're just, you know, they're spot locked in one spot. And we've seen several guys fishing both off the back deck, depending on how they're sitting in the current, and they're not even looking at the graphs.
I think some of these guys pick to fish up here because the dam and the banks up here block you from the wind. It's out in the north. We're catching a little bit on the side of the horseshoe we're on, but it's not as bad as what poor Jason's dealing with down there. I know that.
No, and I'm at the mouth of Cypress right now, and it's blowing straight out of the creek, and it's much colder right here than it has been anywhere we've been, just because I've been trying to hug that north bank too, so it's a little bit more protected. But it sounds like Jason's getting whipped by it down there. He's not letting it whip him, but it's trying to whip him.
Listen, he's in that Phoenix on the move down there right now, going to chase another team, and he'll be all right. He's in the best ride, and the ride that pays you too, Darian. I don't know if you know that or not, but $8,000 on top of $15K this afternoon if you got a Phoenix. That's not a bad little Saturday.
No. No, it's not at all.
It's worth putting up with the cold, that's for sure, and putting up with
I'd
us
put
out
up
here.
with the cold for it. Yeah. Luke, one thing that's interesting that I think me and you talk about this a bunch, tournament fishing, and I have admitted, and we'll joke about this in a little bit, but just to be a little bit serious, we covered Brent Crow earlier and Jimmy Mason, guys who traditionally do really well on this lake, especially this time of year. We've covered Donnie Beck, which he was running like crazy. We didn't see how many fish he had, but he was running around. So I would imagine if he was catching fish, he'd be in one spot. We heard Mitch and Candler had 0 fish. So guys who traditionally do really well on this lake have 0 fish right now, or we assume. My question is, and kind of a statement to the ABT and the quality of fishermen that fish the ABT, and the difference in what makes those guys great tournament fishermen versus
right
average
here. Well,
is.
I think it's a drum. Sorry, Darian. We got one right here on top of us that was hooked up.
No, we'll let
They
him.
grabbed the net and they put it back down. Oh, lost it. Never mind. Sorry. As you were. Go back.
Lost her.
Run it back, Darian.
So my point is, the guys who a great tournament fisherman versus a good tournament fisherman, those guys, I'd be curious to see, but I would bet that they do come in with fish and probably have a good limit of fish. They don't let a rough start to the morning even get in their head. Like these guys are just fishing 100% confident all the way to the end. Whereas me, we won't joke about this just yet, but I will typically give up if they're not biting. I'll give up around 10:30, 10:45 and just pretty much quit. But these guys don't.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a difference. There's a reason that you and I are talking about it and not being about it, as they say, out on the water, because you and I, if they're not biting,
we're not standing on business
Jack's,
out here.
We're not standing on business. We're gonna get a smoked bologna biscuit at Jack's. You know, that's what we're gonna be. We're gonna get that sausage biscuit and a Mountain Dew and just take her on to the house a lot of days if it's this cold. But Jason, welcome back. Darian's making us hungry, as usual. He got me talking about food. So have you found a Jack's biscuit? How rough is it on your end of the lake?
You know, I feel like at this point right now, I'm 20 miles from nowhere and, 100 miles from a Jack's biscuit. So, but it's all good. We pulled up on Johnson and Gross, guys. What kind of weight you got?
Can we clip that?
Yes, please.
You got 3? One good one? What's that one good one look like? 4.5. That's the kind we're looking for. Y'all made a good run down here. It did get a little rough, didn't it? Put the Phoenix to work today, didn't we? It's blowing down there still, right there at the bridge. I put in there this morning and been kind of bouncing back and forth. I keep hating to go that way because it's pretty smooth right here. What got y'all here in practice?
Do what now?
What got y'all to this spot in practice?
Last week, we came down and caught a few. We didn't take anything else anywhere else, we caught over there.
Just got to grind it today, I guess, huh? Everything in the world's changed today.
Yeah. The water's come up about 3 or 4 foot.
Oh yeah, a foot a day. This summertime water here. Looking there, we're on another team with 3 fish, with 1 good fish. Kind of been seeing that down here a little bit. Guys are catching, they're around good ones. They're just not catching a limit at this point. Look at just, it's just a grind down here. I think guys have come to water that they got a history in, maybe later in the year with the lake being down in the wintertime, back up in the summertime. We're right at summer pool today, and guys are fishing really areas right now that were dirt last weekend. So the lake has really made a big change.
It's amazing though. A lot of times how fast the fish will actually change with that. Though we saw that in the Elite Series a couple of years ago. I mean, it'll push those largemouth to the bank a lot of times, and like you said, it was dry just a few days ago. Now it's got 4 or 5 feet of water on it and a lot of current. And sometimes it takes them a couple days to adjust and get to it, but they will go with it to the bank. That's for sure. And it's the same way up here, Jason. You know, where some boats are sitting right now, I promise you, was as dangerous as it gets about 3 days ago. You will not put a boat there. You can't put a kayak where some of these Phoenixes are up here.
Yeah, you could have hopped rock to rock last weekend.
Yes.
How's the cold front affect them today, you think, though? I mean, it dropped crazy temperatures. I mean, like Darian said, I mean, he's always got shorts on, but he came in shorts last night. And I mean, today, it's cold.
I'd like to point out he always got on short shorts, too, like really short shorts. Jason, if we're just going to talk about his wardrobe real quick. You and I are grown men. We don't wear short shorts. But so for me, in a cold front situation, I do. Like now you're starting to see it clear up and kind of turn into that typical cold front day. Like it's going to get bluebird before the weigh-in, for sure. But this morning, I don't ever mind it, even though the temp's falling and that pressure's starting to rise. I don't ever mind it as long as it's still cloudy, at least mentally, right? Like between the ears, that doesn't bother me as bad as if I roll out and it's bright bluebird and that just ultimate, you know,
wintertime
curveball. Typical, but now it's starting, you know, up here, starting to see some sun, the clouds are starting to go away, and it will be really high pressure. You know, that north wind's going to get to really rocking even more, I'm sure. But I think fish probably bit around a little bit this morning. But, you know, Jason, you were talking about it's a grind. That was the overwhelming theme I got at the meeting last night from everybody I talked to, and I talked to some just, you know, just like you did, I'm sure, legends and hammers on this lake. And it's not easy on Pickwick right now with the conditions the way they are.
You know, and I talked to a couple teams earlier this week and just kind of preparing to write the story. And, you know, they said they fish here like you, fished here most of their life. And, you know, it's just different right now. You know, conditions have really changed. Not only the water coming up, the current really rolling, the temperature's changing. You know, the fish are kind of setting up towards that, you know, hey, here comes spawning. You know, I hate to say that this time of year.
Right.
I mean, we're still a month or so away, but gosh, they're trying to feed up right now, and they want to feed up, but they're kind of in that transitional phase, and we really don't know what they want to do. And those guys were like, man, you know, we're really trying to fish where the fish usually should be, and they're just not there right now, and it's kind of hard. You know, I looked at some of those teams on the tracker, and they're all way down the lake. They're fishing the water that's going to be even changing even more because it's further away from the dam. So it's kind of interesting. I may make a run here in a minute and go down there and see what they're doing, but that's a long run. But I'm willing to do it if Miss Kay wants me to.
Well, you're a company man. You did that in the ABT 100 I fished. I remember going back and watching that afterwards, and you were all the way down there in the cold that day, buddy.
Yeah, that was a cold one too. You know,
that was a cold week.
I don't have heated seats
here,
on my boat just for fun, so you know, the heated seats pay off. So I'd rather run than stand up, to be honest. It's warmer sitting back there.
No doubt about it. The Phoenix heated seat keeping you going.
Oh yeah, that's where it's at.
Well, you know, you mentioning that about the fish where they're going to be. It's interesting. Just a few hours south of here on Lake Jordan, what we saw last weekend, there were a lot of fish that seemed like kind of moving into that pre-spawn down there, right? Just a little bit further south. We were on a warming trend, but this area just a little bit further north. I mean, the water was in the 40s not that long ago. I mean, last week we're talking, and that polar vortex that we saw the week of the Snow Bowl there in the 100 at Logan Martin, I mean, it really, really, really affected this area.
Rocked it.
Big time. And these fish, I feel like, are way behind where most of these anglers are going to want them to be. to be honest, even with the changing conditions, and it's been warm, the water's up, a lot of current, but I think these fish are still probably in a winter pattern more so than anything.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, just because we keep having these big cold spells come through, and they keep, like you said, we had the big snow bowl of 2024 that, I mean, nobody thought we'd have snow on the ground in Tennessee for a week and a half, but we did, and all around here was all froze over, and it's been a cold winter. Hopefully this is the last little spell of it, and we can move on to daylight savings time and all that coming up.
I hope you're right. My wife said last night, "Why do you think the weather does this?" I said, "The Alabama Bass Trail, that's why the weather does this." Miss K brings the bad weather sometimes. We had a pretty good weekend last weekend. We can't complain. At Lake Jordan, we were warm. We are not warm today.
Be a monster, but it's a fish. That's a good one. We'll take that. Smallmouth. Oh no, it's a largemouth. Good one. There we go. We'll show them to the camera action there. That's what it's all about. That's why we get out here. On this ledge wall, just straight up and down ledge wall. Boat sitting in about 14 foot of water. So we see nice hook set there. And he's really trying to work it to the back of the boat to try to be able to get it in, and kind of ends up working it all the way around the end of the back of the boat. Comes around the other side and comes back. For the net. You know, the net man's a key important part right there, is that net man. So, team catching right here. Gets him in the boat. Nice camera shot there. Well, here we go, Luke. I got fish. What you got?
I got cold and a bunch of boats still, buddy. We've seen a couple. We in the distance, you know, like I said, we're trying to stay out of the way of everybody up here because they're all jockeying for position. So there's no sense of me getting in their way. That's for sure. And with the current, the boats are constantly moving around, it's really like a careful dance they're all having to do with each other. To not throw over each other's lines, and we're not seeing any temper slayers, so that's good. But I'm back over the way. And we've seen a couple lost fish. We've seen a couple fish catches recently, but nothing huge though to speak of from the boats that we can see here. But I feel like a couple of them are just pecking away at a good limit though, for sure, from what we've seen.
Johnson and Gross are probably doing kind of my style of fishing down here this time of year. I'm not necessarily on the north bank. I've been around south bank down a little bit, kind of grinding crankbait, just running these bluff walls. So these fish can just vertically move up and down on this wall. So though the water came up this week, this area here still had water in it. So the fish haven't had to go very far. So they may have been hanging out here previously in practice, and they were able to locate them, and all the fish did was just kind of rise up on the wall a little bit. So teams that are able to find those kind of fish probably are still there today. And that's hard to find, but if you're able to find them, it's going to pay off.
No doubt about it. We did just have a fish on. It was a drum. Didn't interrupt you for that, Jason. You were making a really good point. I got excited for a second. I almost interrupted.
Yeah, I had a guy caught his drum on a spinning reel earlier. I mean, you talking about little rod bend in action. That looks good. I hear the
They're a
the
good
geese
time to
getting up
catch as
there,
long
the
as you're not
ducks
fishing
getting
for
up
15.
there.
Oh yeah, the ducks and the geese in particular are really loud up here this morning. Between the blue herons and the cormorants and the geese, there's plenty of fowl up here. Jason, are you seeing down where you're at? I mean, are the guys fishing grass? Are you seeing a lot of fishing on the bars going on down there? Offshore grass,
So
or are they
not
fishing
a
hard
whole
spots?
lot.
What's the deal?
Not a whole lot. I mean, where we were before with Mitch Mitchell and Chandler McCollum, they were fishing a spot I know is a hump out there that has grass on it, and you could see the grass is kind of breaking up a little bit because of all the current this week. But then when we start with Lee Pitts and the crew this morning, they're kind of fishing what would be could have grass there, but again, it was dry last week, so it's more of a hard spot currently. But the current's just kind of pushing up against that bank, so it's kind of pushed the fish that way, pushed the bait that way, and it's again on the north bank, and it kind of right before the river starts to make its bend down there. And Lee was saying, man, there's some really good fish in here. We were around a couple other teams that had caught some good fish in there this week, and the bite's just funny. He didn't really say much more than the bite's funny, which, to me, I guess it's maybe a short strike bite or, just a soft bite. Kind of hard to tell what's going on. And when you got the wind blowing so hard and you got the current blowing so hard against you as well, in opposite directions, by the way, you really do have a hard time filling your line and filling the bite. So if you're throwing a soft plastic or something really, really light, you can't really feel it. And these guys have picked up some crankbait, so you're going to have a good strike with the crankbait, hopefully, and know what's going on. But, it's kind of a mixture of both. Chandler and them have, are known to kind of hit some of those spots with those grass edges, and I kind of watched their tracker on the way down, and they were hitting some of those spots, but they don't have any fish, so I think they're fishing some of that same stuff, but they're going to have to make a move and keep moving until they find the fish they're looking for. A lot's changed.
Yeah, the grass
That's what I keep hearing them
is always
say.
interesting to me. With with the way the water fluctuates here, the grass grows in an interesting way, right? I mean, you never know from year to year where it's going to be, depending on flooding, and there are certain areas obviously that it tends to come back in, but man, it can certainly change. You could catch them somewhere last February, and I'll promise you this year it may or may not be there.
Yeah, because of the fluctuation in the water, the grass grows at a certain level, but like you just said, the current comes through there and can just push all that out of the way. So you may come back next weekend, it's like, where'd all my grass go? We saw some floating, so we know it's breaking away.
Yeah, it'll rip it up for sure when it gets to this, this level of CFS. You're over 100,000. It can do some damage to that grass, especially early in the year when it's been so cold.
Mm-hmm. Well, guys, take a little break here from the action. We kind of got a little in the action here. So we're going to kick off to a commercial break. This is the Alabama Bass Trail from Pickwick Lake, Florence, Alabama, brought to you by And First. We'll be right back.
Live coverage of the Alabama Bass Trail is brought to you by Garmin, Power Pole, Big Bite Baits, Mountain Dew, Yamaha.
At Phoenix Boats, our passion for fishing is obvious. Whether it's a pro event or fishing with our family and friends,
we truly love the sport of fishing.
That's why our goal is to make every single Phoenix boat that goes out the door the best fishing platform it can be in both design and construction.
We love to fish as much as anyone, and we believe it shows in every boat we build.
Phoenix Boats. Built by anglers for anglers.
It's that time of year. The Lanners McCarty Chevrolet Red Tag event is on. We're talking $15,000 off select new Silverado 1500s. That's a holiday savings extravaganza. The 2024 Equinox is here. It's easy on the gas, easy on the eyes, and easy on the payments too. As low as $196 a month for a brand new 2024 Equinox. It's the Lanners McCarty Chevrolet Red Tag event, saving you a whole lot of green. Only at the big store on University Drive in Huntsville.
Some things ain't worth keeping. Yesterday's traditions, today's adventures, tomorrow's memories. Now that's something worth keeping. Fish Alabama and find your keeper.
For more information, visit fishalabama.org.
Things you let me see.
I grew up in the South. I love it here, like I love the homemade taste of Jack's. Right now, get our Bacon Ranch Big Jack. All beef patties, crispy bacon, and yeah, homemade ranch. Get the Bacon Ranch or our classic Big Jack starting at $5.49 with fries.
Welcome back to the Alabama Bass Trail Live, presented by AmFirst. First stop of the Alabama Bass Trail North Division here on Pickwick Lake, Florence, Alabama. As you see, McFarland Park there. The team is setting up the weigh-in trailer. Guys are out fishing. Darian, Jason, and Luke are out on the water trying to get you the best coverage possible. As you can hear, current is the word of the day. Current and wind. There is a ton of wind blowing, anywhere from 10 to 15 mile an hour winds. And current, we've received a ton of rain in North Alabama over the past 5 days, and not just in North Alabama. When you get into that southern Tennessee area, all of that water has to come through the Tennessee River, so that's what we're seeing. About half of the floodgates are open right now, creating all of that current that you're seeing up there around where Luke is currently at. So Jason is a little farther down the lake, closer to the Natchez Trace Bridge area, and that's a little bit where our cell phone signal starts getting shoddy. So we're going to just kind of keep him this side of that bridge and try to bring you as much action as we can. I want to remind you that weigh-in starts at 3 o'clock today at McFarland Park. It's a little windy, it's a little cold, so come prepared, bring your blankets, your lawn chairs, maybe your earmuffs, because it is quite windy outside today. So please make sure that you tune in. But if you can't make it out, of course, we have plenty of options for you. You can always watch it on Alabama Bass Trail TV on YouTube. Also on the Alabama Bass Trail Tournament Series page here on Facebook, as well as alabamabastrail.org. Click on live and then click live weigh-in. You'll be able to watch it all there. 225 teams hit the water this morning with one thing in mind, and that's taking home that $15,000 first place check. We'll pay out over $64,000 here at the ramp today, and those all important points that go toward the $100,000 no entry fee championship later on in October. So they paid for this tournament back in August, and they've waited 6 months, and it finally is here. And we've had great weather all week. It's been really, really warm. And then tournament day happens, and we have a 30-degree drop in temperatures, rain overnight, and just a lot of changes. So everything that happened in practice is not what they're seeing today. So will the local guys have an advantage because of their knowledge here, or will someone that doesn't have any knowledge just come in and go fishing and take home that win? It's going to be very interesting. One thing that will be interesting also is, can we go 3 for 3 on Phoenix First Flight? First 2 winners of the year, taking home an additional $8,000. That increased this year with Phoenix. Another thing that we're running right now with one of our partners, Academy Sports and Outdoors, if you would like to purchase any of the baits, the rods, reels, clothing items that you've seen here on the Alabama Bass Trail Live, you can do so by texting ABT to 22369. Get $10 off your next purchase of $50 or more. That's online or in the store. So make sure that you take advantage of that. With baseball season here, summer right around the corner, fishing season in gear, you can really stock up at your local Academy Sports and Outdoors or at academy.com. So lots of great partners here with the Alabama Bass Trail. You've seen Phoenix. You've heard them talk about Garmin LiveScope. You've heard them talk about the Force Trolling Motor. We get to do what we do because of those partners. Anyone who knows the Alabama Bass Trail knows that we pay over 100% back to our anglers. So all the other things, the live, everything that we get to do is because of the partnerships that we have throughout the industry, and also some of our non-endemic partners like Mountain Dew, like Jack. So please make sure that you are supporting those people who support our industry and who support your anglers. I know Luke is still up in the horseshoe area, not all the way in the horseshoe, but in that area looking at boats. And it really is a lot like organized chaos up there. It is like a dance. If you've ever been up there and witnessed it, it is unlike any fishing that I've ever been a part of. The one thing about Pickwick Lake, smallmouth, largemouth, spotted bass, sauger, bluegill, catfish, drum, and they all live in those same areas. So it's really an interesting fishery, probably one of the neatest fisheries on the Tennessee River. But we're hoping to see a lot of those brown fish. I know last week when Luke was weighing in those spotted bass last week, I know he loved that, but I know also that he wants to hold up those brown bass. So Luke, how are you seeing any fish catches up there? Or are people starting to vacate that area and go different places? What's going on at the dam?
We are seeing some catching. It's kind of typical of, like you said, it's a dance. Everybody kind of jockeys for position up here a little bit, but there will always be 2 or 3 boats that get kind of on a hot seam or a hot rock pile, and we're about 50, 75 yards away from a team, and I'm not sure who it is, Kay, because we've not been close enough. We actually can't get close enough to them to even ask, to be honest, because there's so many boats between us and them. But they are catching them. We just talked to Craig Daniel and Wesley Sams, and they said they were one of the first boats in here, the guys I'm talking about, and they are catching them. And he said there are 2 other boats in here that have really caught them this morning. We've seen a couple fish catches. Craig and Wesley, though, interesting, kind of the opposite of that in all this current. They're having battery issues. Not sure what's going on. We keep seeing Wesley digging around back in that engine compartment. Craig's on the trolling motor trying to fish, but their batteries are toast. And they said they're not sure if they didn't charge at the hotel last night. They thought they were, but they don't have a fish. We saw them net one, but it wasn't a keeper, he was telling us. So Craig and Wesley sitting on 0. And, you know, kind of, they're giving us an on-the-water report, though, because they've been in the crowd. They've been playing bumper boats. Like I said, Britton and I are trying to stay out of everybody's way. We're going to ease up a little closer here in a minute, though. It's starting to get to where I can hopefully get a little closer as boats are clearing out. But we probably got, I'd say 20 within sight right now on both sides of the boat.
Okay. Talking about the fish didn't measure, let's talk about that a little bit. On the Tennessee River at Pickwick, smallmouth, largemouth, they must measure 15 inches or better. Spotted bass, 12 inches. You're not going to win with those 15-inch bass. You're going to want those better than average. You're not going to win with those 15-inch largemouth, and you're not going to win with those 12-inch spots. You guys are looking for a little bit better fish than that, correct? Seems like we may have lost the camera connection on Luke right now. We'll get back out to him in just a minute. We'll talk a little bit about how the fish size limits are mandated by the state of Alabama. Your possession limits, 15 inches on largemouth and spots in the state of Alabama on the Tennessee River. On the Pickwick side, a little bit different at Gunnersville, 12 inches on spots. You're not going to win that $15,000 check with those kind of fish, are you, Luke?
No, not at all. But there are some big spots in this lake as well, though, and that's kind of happening at Gunnersville and Wheeler as well. So some big spots can play today. You'll see some big spots, some 3-pound plus spots come across the stage this afternoon, I believe, to go with the smallmouth and largemouth.
You and I made some predictions on Monday when we recorded the podcast. How are you feeling about your prediction thus far?
I think my weight prediction is going to be way high. I'm afraid from some of the poor mouth that I heard at the meeting, and I just think with the conditions, it might not take that 25-pound plus bag. But this lake's got them. Talking to Lance and Cole Walker last night, they said they had a 25-pound bag on Wednesday this week, but they said it's not easy to get it, and they thought the conditions would make it a little tougher on them to be able to put that kind of bag together. But we could still certainly see it. But you know, Ms. Kay, I tend to change my mind a lot in life, and I'm changing my mind today with these weather conditions. We might not see that over 25-pound bag of smallies today.
I'd love to see that. We've had, tournaments won here anywhere from 18 to 23 and a half, I think, pounds. And we always have good tournaments here, but the weather has certainly thrown us a curveball. And I am really kind of dialing it down to just the North Division, because it seems like the North Division gets all the bad weather. They need to start living nicer.
You're blaming us Tennessee river rats for that? Okay, I see what you're doing there.
I'm blaming the North Alabama anglers. They need to be nicer. Well, mainly just a group. There's about 13 of them that need to be nicer. Let's bring Darian in. He's on a boat. Let's see. Either somebody has given up or they're in the locker box looking for something, because it looks like one is down on the front of the boat.
This man reminds me of myself. When we pull up, I see him lay down on the back deck. He put his hands in his pocket. He literally just laid down. And maybe it's because he's done wrangled 30 pounds worth of bass. I don't know. But I just like the fact that he's literally just taking him a little nap right now, warming up. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him one bit. I literally don't blame him one bit. So we pull up. We may actually made a little run towards Luke. Me and Kenny discussed hopping in the truck and turning the heat on for about 15 minutes, but we decided we might get fired. We ran into the canal, and as soon as we pulled up, there's a guy sitting on a community hole type spot. He did this number to us, this neck motion. Nuh-uh. So y'all don't have them? No, we've been here for 3 hours and only had two bites, and they both drum. Then I see this guy lay down, and then I see this guy pick his trolling motor up. So just out of the gate, I'm thinking right here at the mouth of the canal is not where it's going down at, but it's cold. Obviously, we're talking about it for the people at home. It's freezing cold. I got these super thick motorcycle gloves on, and even the run, I mean, my hands they don't even operate right now. These guys are leaving. When we pulled up, I haven't seen it. They haven't even had rods in their hands. So, this is one of those days. It's one of those days where me and Houston would have gave up at. Luke Duncan would have gave up a little after us, and then, somebody would have come in with 28 pounds and said they caught them all day. I got to talk to these guys. Hang on, we're about to get a little interview. This is going to be good. Hopefully they're good sports about it, but I don't know. There's no telling. This is going to be adventurous. I gotta hear the story.
Legs hurt.
Is it hurting from wrestling fish, or is it just cold and froze up?
Standing up yesterday, and then all day today, and then that bed wasn't comfortable last night.
No. And it's
Hey, telling the truth.
and it's a little cold on top of that.
The fingertips.
Yeah. I'm wearing what's y'all's boat number?
144.
144. Y'all got any fish?
We've had like 3 bites, but no
Yeah. That seems to be a common trend so far today.
Oh, yeah.
Well, when we pulled in, we saw you lay down, so I had to come at least ask you what it was about. Whether you lost a 10-pounder or you didn't sleep good, it was one of the two.
No, if it had been a 10-pounder, you'd have heard some stuff. It wouldn't have been TV, quality TV stuff either.
Yeah. Well, good luck. We're going to keep bouncing around.
Thank you.
See y'all.
You know, this boat would look better with that y'all tail.
Yeah. Yeah. See you, man.
It is definitely cold for sure. What kind of weight you got? Around 15 pounds. 2 small ones, okay. Ty Cox and Cameron Gaultney sitting on about 15 pounds right now. Guys, that's a good run. That's a good run to get here, right? Yeah. Y'all had a couple. Did I see y'all fishing here right up the way earlier? Y'all been right? Yep. Yep. We were down there earlier as well, so. Yeah, just kind of trying that different little spots moving around. Yeah. Got a fish on in the back. Upgrade there. Going through the culling process here. You can definitely see one of those is smaller. One of them goes back home. Bladed jig on the front. the cool thing is, pulled up on these guys and they caught a fish pretty quick. So the guy in the back of the boat's got a nice hook set. Takes his time working it in. Just working it in slow. Definitely don't want to lose this fish. Net man's working on getting the net out. Swoop, got him in the net. Got a net. And those things are pretty good size here, and then they go to culling, so that definitely calls one out. So that's a good upgrade. That's what we're here for. Small upgrades or big upgrades, we'll take them either way as long as they're upgrades. Tide's making a change here, it looks like. He can see him on the graph, so he's going to make us move here now, doing a little bit of live scooping in the current. That's pretty cool. Luke, what you got going on up there? You're still up there, kind of in the horseshoe area still?
We are in the thick of it, Jason. We are up here in the goods, watching 3 Phoenixes just do battle. We're watching a couple guys try not to tear the fiberglass up. Britton will show you right now. They're on some of these rocks up here that, again, were dry ground just a few days ago, I'll assure you. But everybody's getting along for the most part, but not sure who all the teams are, to be honest. We have not got close enough to talk to them. Again, we're trying to be respectful, and we're closer than we were. But these fish get real specific little seams, so we're doing our best just to stay out of their way, out of their casting lanes, but they are all on top of each other. And there's one seam right here you can see to the left of these, on the north side of these rocks, really, where that floodgate water is coming through here at the head of the horseshoe. And this was on the boats here. The kind of lead boat is the one that we heard was doing the most damage this morning. And they have not moved. They have been locked in right there the entire time we've been up here. And there are 2 other boats that are within casting distance. They're all talking. Everybody's getting along for the most part. A lot of swim bait going on. And all you folks at home can tell the geese really love Alabama Bass Trail Live, presented by Amherst. We've had a cheering section the entire time we've been in the horseshoe. Every time we think we get away from them, they relocate to find Britton and I. Are you finally doing some work down there? You find another team to get on?
Well, I'm actually really close to you. I'm just on the other side of this wall. We're in the canal, and we've got up to boat number 1, and they said they got 1 fish. I'm in the canal almost all the way up to the lock, or we're at the bridge now, so I guess I'm a little ways down from you, but man, we've bounced around, and we've seen 1 boat that had a limit and 1 boat that had 3 fish. And other than that, everyone we've talked to has had 1 fish or 0, 3 or 4 drums apiece. And this thing's got to pick up at some point. You know, that's what my papa always said. Well, you're going to have to bite sometime. Well, if you're
They're
that guy
not
back
biting,
there at the
right?
mouth of this thing, they're not well, now, sometimes for me, they are not biting, for me oftentimes. But, you know.
Well, I think you're on Roger Stegall, correct?
Yes.
That's a Pickwick Lake legend. That's royalty on this lake. But it surprises me to hear where you're covering him at. He is an Iuka, Mississippi boy and a lower end of Pickwick Hammer. You don't see him on the upper end of this lake very often. He doesn't turn left very many times in tournaments. I wonder if that's an adjustment based on the weather or what? The wind and everything, wind in the forecast.
I mean, I bet that's what. I mean, look at Jason. Jason's all the way down there at the other dam almost, and he's got several people down there. I wouldn't have ran that far, but hey, I would have also finished about 213th in this tournament. So ain't nobody asking me.
If you got a good,
There's a casserole down here. If there's a casserole down here, you'd have ran all the way down here to get it. You know that, don't lie.
No, I wouldn't. Now I've been known to run for a little casserole now. I have been known to run.
He'd have drove in the truck.
In the truck. In the truck.
Yeah, he'd have drove in the truck. He'd have drove in the truck to get it. Yeah.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie. I did get to Jack's. Jack's opened at 5 this morning. I was at Jack's about 5:45 this morning with a sausage, egg, and cheese.
Oh,
biscuit
now
in
you
my-
tell us that. That's why you were late to the takeoff.
Well, you
too,
were
I
already
guess.
gone. You had to leave. You had
Supporting
to leave this morning at
sponsors, I
4:05
guess.
to get
That's what
to
we're
where
gonna
you
call
were.
it. Yeah, I did.
I'm out here supporting sponsors on the daily, brother. I have as many sponsors as I can support. I got Magellan on. I got who else I got? My foot's on a Garmin Force trolling motor. I mean, I got the whole thing, brother. I can keep going down the list too. I thought about refinancing my truck with no transmission with Android.
No transmission. That's a good one there.
Yeah, Darian, if you'll do us all a favor, try not to break down in the parking lot again this week. It's a way in. We would greatly appreciate it. You really kind of killed our flow at Lake Jordan for a little bit when the tow truck interrupted the weigh-in. So try not to do that again. Go buy a new truck or something.
The funniest part was everyone was saying, man, that guy who was doing, like, people who don't know me and you, like, man, that guy who was doing the weigh-ins was mad at you, wasn't he? I was like, what do you mean? He said, well, he was hollering on the speaker, if you don't move your truck in 5 minutes, we're going to get it towed.
That guy sounds like he's something else. That was yelling from the stage. I don't know who would do that. Give his friend a hard time. Kicking boys down.
Yeah. Oh, I got kicked.
Not me. All right, so all three of us, we've covered a lot of boats today. I kind of know what's going on my end, obviously, and what I expected, but you guys seen anything that surprised you from, technique-wise, or is it kind of what you expected coming in so far?
Sorry, I just had a boat run past us. Well, one thing I'm
me
seeing
too.
is like
I got one in the background.
I just think back to old, like when growing up, reading fishing magazines, Pickwick Lake, Brent Crow, Jimmy Mason, old school like fishing report stuff. Is I'm seeing a bunch of more old school jig and pig than I thought I would. Like it's old school setups too. Zoom chunk looking like no movement type of baits. Fishing really, really, really slow, which makes sense because of the conditions. But going into the tournament, like y'all were making fun of me for earlier, wearing shorts yesterday, I didn't think that would be the case. But it's what I've seen is very old school. A lot of the places where we've been seeing drifts on, it was either like the little minnow stuff or old school jigging and pigging. So not a lot of cranking, not a lot of DT6s, which you normally see, especially in this canal that we're in now. A lot of that riprap stuff we've been on. Traditionally, you see a bunch of cranking, those rocks, spinnerbaiting those rocks, fast moving stuff. But it's been pretty slow fishing this morning. Not just bites wise, but the actual techniques have been old school slow fishing techniques.
Jason, what about you? Anything that surprised you down there? Other than how nice your heated seats are?
I guess what surprised me most is most guys are having to stay at the bank. And I think that's probably a lot to do with the way the conditions are down here. I've seen some guys try to stay out and away, out from the bank.
Hooked up.
And, like hook up. We'll pause for that.
Yep. Got one hooked up on a spinning rod. Let's see if drummer bass. I haven't seen it jump yet. It is a trash fish. When you see the net go down and they start taking off gloves so they can just reach over the boat and unhook it, it is not coming to see me at the weigh-in. Continue, Jason. Sorry.
But you kind of thought a lot of guys would be able to fish some of those grass humps out a little more from the bank than what we've been seeing. And I think the guys have tried to get out there and do that and have found that the current's pretty swift and maybe some of the grass is gone even. So the guys that have bounced around have been able to catch fish, but some of those guys have been right up on the bank. A minute ago we were on a team that was just right at the straight up bluff wall, and then where we started earlier this morning, that whole group was right in the bank. I think the current's kind of coming by there pretty swift, and they're able to kind of stay right up there close to the bank where the fish are really just trying to hang out. We've said that they want to go to the bank with the rising water, and I think that's what some of the guys are saying. Hey, these fish are here. We're moving that way, so we're going to try to get up there with them. This may be the day that they're kind of making that move, just to kind of go to the bank, to the deeper the water. With the sun's coming out now,
well, between that
comes some of that bluebird skies, I think.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We are almost 100% bluebird up here at the dam, but the current, the fish will make the transitional migration, obviously, as it gets closer to pre-spawn and spawn time. But when you get this much current, over 100,000, it will push these fish in places as well, right? Like it will actually put them on the bank. Because they're not going to sit in the middle of the river and fight it. They're just not going to.
No.
Especially where the river's narrow. Now, when you get on the lower end, down towards Counts and all that, it gets a little wider, so it maybe doesn't have that same effect as it does to say the first 25 miles of the lake. But it'll position the fish. It positions the bait fish and really makes it hard on them. Anything over 100,000 is a pretty good little amount of flow.
And there are teams down there. Don't want to say where they are, but they're way down that way. And chances are we may need to head that way soon. But I'd be anxious to see what they weigh in at the end of the day. We did make that run last year, and some of those teams were at the top of the scales at the end of the day last year. Because really they're getting down there and they're fishing water that's all to themselves.
That's what I was going to say. Doesn't get as much pressure, especially on a windy day like today, right? It probably, a lot of people might have gone to their, their plan B, plan C with the weather forecast with that. To control the boat.
I know we've lost Luke. Kind of bouncing in and out of signal the closer he gets to the dam. Oh, he's back. Come on back, Luke. Tell us a little more. So with him being up so close to the dam, that signal kind of comes in and out. Thankfully, we're in an area where we've got pretty stable signal. We tried to stay in that area. Darian, where are you now?
So we're in the canal. But our this guy in the front said he was in the horseshoe to start today, but there were so many boats and they played bumper boats for a while, and he said he couldn't get on exactly the spots he wanted to. So we're in the canal, and there's a culvert underneath this left side with some sort of creek just flowing in.
Fish on.
And I've actually never even noticed this before. Oh, I'll hush for a second.
It's a little one.
Oh, I'll talk for a little one. So he said we hadn't caught any yet, but he is pointing. He said, I'm seeing them everywhere on live scope, and he's jerk baiting and throwing a jig and really, really live scope fishing this spot. And we've been watching him work this bank up to this little creek run-in, whatever you want to call this thing. So this looks really fishy. Hopefully he can get on something here. Jason, I've been surprised just because I'm not as connected to fishing as I once was. How many people are running some sort of turret? I don't know what all the brands call it, but that turret that's on their trolling motor that has the live scope transducer attached to it. I'm surprised at how many of those I've seen today. I bet it's 70-80% of the boats that we've got on have had some sort of device that enables them to control where live scope's pointing at while they're spot locked. And for the people at home who are watching, I don't know how well we can zoom in on their trolling motor, but you can see the shaft of the trolling motor, he's locked on spot lock. So no matter how much wind or current comes, that motor is actually keeping them in the exact same spot no matter what happens. However, when that happens, you can't control the live scope, and live scope's letting them look out in front of the boat. So there's another rod that's going down into the water directly in front, the one that's in the very front. He's actually able to control that one too. That's allowing his Panoptics unit to move, and he can control the view of it, and he can aim over to that culvert or aim over to the right out in front of the culvert without moving the actual trolling motor, which is really, really cool to be able to do that because you're way more efficient. You can see he's casting all over the place, but if you watch his left foot, it's controlling that turret and where the live scope transducer is pointed at. And now you can see they're both throwing at that same spot. So, Jason, I know you work with Phoenix a bunch and see this a lot. You're a lot more connected with it than I am right now. But is that something you're seeing as a trend right now? And I'm just missing out on it. How many people are running this year?
I mean, it went from guys kind of just making their homemade rig where they put a PVC pipe out there and put a handle on it, and they're able to control their turret. Because like I am right now, spot locked right here, my trolling motor head is going left and right, I mean, a lot. And you really can't see your fish when you're doing that. So they're able to put that out there and hold it in one spot. So of course the upgrade is always electronics, and putting that where they're able to use their feet and put their hands back on their rod and reel, and they're able to just kind of turn that to the left and really spot lock it where it needs to be, and then the trolling motor can kind of hold the boat where it needs to be. So really just a lot of guys just wanting to see the fish a lot more. Because, you know, the way we would do it without it is we're just kind of running with our foot and just kind of trying to hold it here and going, okay, well, there's where the fish are, and just kind of making a mental note, and then kind of locking the trolling motor down and letting it do its thing. But the guys that really do the spot locking are, you know, and then also really using their live scope, they have to have both. And that's kind of where it's all going. I mean, you see more and more, you look at somebody's trolling motor and they've got 2 live scopes, they got the Torrent on there, they got a 360 on there. You know, it's just more and more and more. So lots happening at the front of the boat these days.
And I would say even too, I bet this has to do with the kind of lakes, but last week at Jordan, I didn't notice near as much of this 360 with the turret on the trolling motor. I guess you know, the South lakes are kind of known for bank beating, swimming a jig, flipping grass, skipping docks, old school type of fishing still. But up here, these Tennessee River boats, like, they're loaded out. A lot of big Garmin units, a lot of live scoping, and just stuff everywhere.
Yep, and you know, it's kind of hard these days to not have 3 Garmin units at the bow. You know, you got so much going on. It's kind of hard not to have that when if you're winning the money to pay for them, you know, and if you're looking to win the money to pay for them, that's you cannot be outbeat by the competition for sure on that.
That's right.
But you can get it done with one. I mean, you really can. But you know us, we gotta have a 50-inch TV at home. So why don't we have 3 graphs on the bow too?
Yeah.
We're still culling back here. We culled one out with that one. So they're kind of running through their weights, kind of get another head count. We may ask them here in a minute how much weight they really have, because they put each one of them on the scale now.
Jason, you were talking about screens. I can attest. I drove your boat last Saturday. You got so many screens on that thing. You got Netflix on one, Disney Plus on another one. You were watching the Avengers.
Yeah, I didn't even.
You had live scope going.
I didn't even have my iPad up there last week when you got in. I could throw the iPad up there, and we can really, you know, we can do a lot, because I got the iPad up now, and we can see where all the trackers are. So, you know, if we're going to talk fishing, we got to at least look like we fish sometimes, you know?
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Yeah, it looked like a command center for the FBI or something. That's what your console looks like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll just do another shameless plug.
You got to
here.
have it these days, right?
The cool thing. Yeah. The cool thing about the Phoenix dual dash there, you can put 2 graphs side by side. And I mean, one more shameless plug while we're at it, the new XE that just came out, we can do 3 graphs at the bow, all factory installed on a factory mount. So that new bow shroud up there is really allowing us to put more graphs at the bow for sure.
They're all mounted on the console, or is one of those on like a ram mount on the side?
I got 2 on the console, but 3 at the console and the ram mount. But at the bow, we've got a new shroud, a fiberglass shroud up there, a step, kind of like the XE. I mean, kind of like the Elite, but it's a little bit bigger, and we can mount a bar across there, and we can do 3 graphs on there, 2 at the bottom and 1 at the top. So we redesigned for the XE. We did that.
See, I think that where we're headed with all this technology stuff is we're going to have like those Apple, those goggles. We're all just going to sit in the driver's seat. Yeah, you're going to have that vision,
agree.
that Garmin vision.
Garmin vision. Just go ahead and claim it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Garmin, holler at me.
Garmin, holler at me, yeah.
Yeah. I want on the pack.
I mean, there's the price of a graph anyway. Those Apple ones cost about what a Garmin setup would cost. So,
yeah.
I'm not sure about the safety factor.
I've got a question. Yeah, you can see through them. You can see all the way through them.
Oh, I don't know anything about that, so I'm too old, Darian.
So I do have a fishing question. So I heard that Jason's earlier had someone that had 15 pounds. The most we've seen is 11. We did talk to someone who had over a 5-pound smallmouth, so that was definitely the biggest fish that I've seen. 11 pounds is the biggest limit I've seen. Jason, what's the biggest limit you've seen? And then I'll go to Luke after that. If we just kind of get an idea.
What kind of weight we got now, you think? How much? 17. So we're sitting on about 17 pounds now with the 2 upgrades we just had. So there you go.
And that's Ty Cox?
Yep, Ty Cox.
Luke, what about you?
Ty Cox and Cameron Galtney, they should be tested for Pickwick steroids. I'm just saying. Those two shouldn't be allowed to fish together.
When I heard that name earlier, I'm like, what have we got here?
Yeah, when I called that boat number this morning, I was like, ooh, that's interesting to the rest of the competitors. Them boys win
you don't want to pick favorites, but golly.
Well, there's a lot of them in a lot of teams in this you can say that about, that's for sure. And we know how the Alabama Bass Trail anglers show up and show out everywhere we go. But Darian, I can't really answer your question accurately because we've seen some fish get caught. But you know how it is. You were up here this morning. We're really close to the floodgates now. We're just protected by the rocks of the island here a little bit. But it's so loud with the current coming through. And then with everybody bundled up, including ourselves, we've not really got to talk to too many boats, you know, and trying to stay out of their way.
Yeah.
So we're not sure on weight estimates. We just know there have been a couple boats in here everybody's talking about that got some good fish, caught some early. And there's one team in particular, and we're really close to them now, but still not close enough to talk, that they've been on one seam the entire time we've been here. They've been the lead boat. Nobody's been able to make the same cast they're making. So I gotta think they're
when I was up there,
bag.
When I was up there this morning, you would just see across the horseshoe, and you'd see somebody catch one, or you'd look the other way and you'd see somebody set the hook. And are you still seeing that going on? Like, you can see fish being caught, they're just out of camera reach or whatever, or is it slowed down?
Yeah, we're seeing a few. We just actually, when you and Jason were up live and we were not with you guys, we saw about a 3-pound smallmouth get caught next to us. But it's not. This morning when you were reporting from up here, you were seeing a lot more action than we are. But that's kind of typical of that first hour bite up here before they get used to the big motors going over their heads and trolling motors and transducers pinging. You'll get that bite, but it seems like now there's probably, I'm going to say, a dozen right here close to us. So there's not near as many as there was, so it'll kind of settle down. Everybody's spot locked where they're going to be, and fish will start biting again. But no, it is anything but fast and furious. That's for sure right now.
Hey, Luke, I did have a question for you. These guys that we're covering right now, maybe this is the trick, I don't know. I'm certainly not making any kind of fun about these guys. But they're both throwing red crankbaits, and they have sprayed so much garlic spray on those crankbaits. It smells, I don't know if they're looking for some Italian smallmouth bass over here in this canal, but I don't know what's going on.
They're close to rigatoni.
It smells like, dude, I don't know. It is.
Are you sure? Are you sure? Because you could be. You're downwind from Court Street, so you could be getting a little whiff of rigatoni's, maybe down there.
Well, the unfortunate thing is I've tasted the garlic. The unfortunate thing is I've tasted the garlic spray a few times. We're downwind also from these guys, and it's that black can of garlic spray. I think I got crawfish tongue now.
Tell them to get their life right and get some bait fuel. Then they won't be spraying you downwind.
Yeah.
Slather up that crankbait with some bait fuel.
Is like. My buddy right here is kneeling and reeling now. Luke, another kind of just random while we're not having a ton of fish catches going on, I'm going to put my trolling motor on high and work on up to these other guys. But I was watching a fishing video last night, Scott Martin fishing video, and his last tournament was in Florida, and one of the co-anglers in the boat beside him, they're all a bunch of guys fishing around the same area. The co-angler brought a live scope unit, a portable live scope. I don't know how he had it rigged up or where the stuff went at, and they didn't even show it on camera, but Scott Martin was talking about this guy, literally a co-angler, brought a transducer, rigged up a pole of some sort to the side, and had a graph with him as a co-angler. Have you ever heard of that?
I have heard rumor of it. That's the first confirmation, to be honest, that somebody was crazy enough to do that. Listen, if I was a co-angler, I don't know that I would enjoy. It's like fishing with somebody sight fishing or parallel on a bank or skipping docks. You know, you're going to be back there hoping for scraps out in the middle. You know, but that's going to be an interesting situation for co-anglers. But I feel like if you're going to spend that kind of money on a live scope to go in the back of the boat, you might as well just get you a Phoenix too and just fish out the front. So if you're going to go to all that trouble,
yeah,
like, let's just become a boater. You know.
Yeah, I had never heard of that. Also, Luke, I don't know if you heard this conversation earlier, but I've noticed how many people are running that turret now, or some sort of turret, whatever brand it is, I don't know. But are you noticing that too? Like, it seems like this year, I've seen more today than I've ever seen of people running that turret.
Yeah, I was actually out on the water yesterday a little bit, noticed several boats on the lake I fished close to home that had those, and I think they're becoming more accessible. You know, there were only, one or two companies that made them originally. Now there are a lot of companies making those, and I could see where it would be convenient. I've never really messed with one. I remember a trip you and I were on, Darian, down at O.H. Ivy a few years ago, and we were live scoping those big fish down there, and when the wind would blow and you're trying to sit out in the dead middle of the lake, we certainly were talking that day that, man, if somebody would make something so you could spot, lock, and live scope, that would be the deal. So I understand why it would work.
We should have patented that idea, sure. Luke.
Yeah. Well, that was the time that I came up with the idea for a sweet tea company. So that's around that time of my life.
Yeah.
Where I gave you that idea.
Well, for all the people back home, the day has been a little bit weird for us to find guys. Jason's been probably the most consistent with finding people that are catching fish. We've bounced around a ton. I don't know if you can tell, but I've got the troll motor on high, bouncing from boat to boat, and we've covered as many people today as we probably ever have as far as just pulling up on them and seeing boats. But truly, no one. Okay, look at these guys right here. They just sat down. We get up to them and they're about to make a run. This has happened all. This has been the story of the day. I've been working with these guys for the last 10 minutes. I think I am running them off.
You are.
I think I am running them off. Look, he feels bad now. He's looking at me and he's like, man, I feel bad. But, so anyhow, I know that we're, Jason's been out on some good fish catches today, but Ms. Kay said that we've got a lot of people on Facebook, YouTube. We appreciate your support. We're chattering, but if y'all have any questions, Miss Kay's in our ears. We've got AirPods in, and we're listening to anything Miss Kay's got to say for us. So if y'all have questions, be sure and comment them down below. Me, Luke, and Jason will try our best to get them answered, whether it's what we're seeing or if we should try to cover people that you've got out here on the lake. Maybe message down below if a certain person said they had a good practice or not. We'd love to go look for them if you know somebody who was catching a lot of fish. So we'll try our best. Like I've said before, we've got these iPads. Me, Luke, and Jason have iPads, and we can see pretty much where, I believe we've got 40 people roughly that we have trackers on. So we can zoom out on the map and see, basically cover the entire lake. So if you've got anybody that you'd like us to try to cover, we'll do our best. We can't guarantee it, but drop their names down in the comments below. Miss Kay will tell us those in our ear, and we'll see if we can go cover them. But we appreciate y'all tuning in this Saturday morning. Hopefully it's warmer where y'all are than where we are. Let's see these guys. Y'all got any? Double thumbs down and a 0. Good luck. No good. That one, I thought about interviewing, but honestly, they didn't look like they even wanted to be interviewed.
Darren, you weren't at the meeting last night, but I made an announcement at the meeting that if you got close to anybody, they should leave immediately. So it sounds like they're
they are
listening to my advice.
They are listening to your advice.
Jason and I both told them that. I told them, Jason's good luck and you're terrible.
Y'all did a good job. I feel like I'm being punked right now, honestly. I feel like there's an ongoing joke that just run away from me today, but, And then we got to these other guys who this morning said how loaded their spot was. They're catching fish every single cast. And we even go back there, nothing. I thought about seeing if this boat I'm in has rods because they were talking about how many fish were there. I don't know if only the drum moved in. They were catching drum and catfish, but who knows? I've had 3 people today tell me they wish they had a glass of sweet tea. Should have just brought that.
I don't want
Guys,
anything
I just
cold
pulled up
right
with the
now.
tracker. You know, we were talking about teams that make a run. There is actually a team looking at the tractor all the way at the Pickwick Dam. So I made the full run dam to dam.
They're going to need a chiropractor tomorrow.
That's interesting.
I don't care if they're in a Phoenix or a Barge. That's not going to be fun this afternoon.
Coming back is not going to be fun. You're right.
Yeah, the mouth of Bear Creek will get interesting this afternoon. I have a feeling for a few of them, potentially. It's one of those rain suit days,
scattered from here all the way
out.
down there. There goes another team headed that way. The sun is coming out, boys.
Jason, I don't know if you can tell any difference though where you're at, but I feel like the wind is picking up though as the clouds push out. It feels like it's getting colder almost. The sun's out, but that wind's got a bite to it. I know you've been in the wind most of the morning.
We finally had all morning here.
Yeah,
it has been like that all day down here.
Yeah, listening to your reports, it sounds like you've been in the wind, but yeah, we're really just starting to feel it for the first time, to be honest. And it could be just a little change in direction too.
I mean, the current's going at
Shifting
120.
more out of the north.
Current's going at 120, and the boat actually just floating goes against the current because of the wind. Oof. So let that be a factor.
Yes, sir. That lets me know I'm glad I'm up here.
I mean, normally on a day like this, you would lock the trolling motor down and the motor would go down river. Well, you lock it today and the motor goes upriver. So we've got a stiff wind and a stiff current, and that's kind of this deal. I mean, the wind's blowing the current, and it almost may be pausing it down here. It's kind of weird to think about that, but the upper current is kind of getting slowed down because of the wind, and they're rolling. The waves are rolling over this morning because of it. It's a weird deal.
Are the water conditions getting better as far as the rough water, Jason? Is the wind changing direction more out of the north than northwest?
Yes, as long as the wind stays out of the north, and you've got a really high bank, it's really good. But right there at Trace, the bank kind of goes down on the north side, so it lets it open up just a wind tunnel. So that's why it's so rough right there. Just the bank is so low right before you get to Trace coming from this way, and the current's getting rolled really hard. And when we took out this morning, I was like, dude, we got to get across the lake so that we can run, and we did. So these guys are gonna make a move. These guys are going just kind of swimming around out here as well, just trying to chasing the fish on live scope a little bit. Tell us a little bit. I mean, is it grass? Is it hard spots? Is it?
This is grass. We're kind of a grass line. They're sitting right on the edge. They're sitting on a hard bottom, but they're sitting right on the grass line.
And obviously the current's coming by here.
Yeah. And they're just, believe it or not, they're sitting right on the face of it. You think they'll be sitting so thin behind it, and they're actually just smack dab up in the middle.
Wow. Just eating the current. It's kind of got their mouth open.
Yeah. Not today, though. Not today. It's been tough to get them to bite this day. That's what, right there when I started throwing that little Dominican deal.
Yeah.
See, there's like 5 or 6 of them falling it out every time. They fall it all the way up to the boat and just take off.
They just struggle. They don't want it today.
That was like when we started down there.
Yeah.
Yesterday I pulled up there and made 3 casts and caught 3 fish. It took us 2 hours to make the cast.
That's crazy.
They're still there, you just gotta force feed them.
Just gotta stay with them. Do what?
We're about to move, but we're just going.
Okay, no problem. Y'all fish, guys. We'll hang out as long as we can. These guys are going to make a move, but you heard him say that, you know, it's a grass line out here. There's a couple little grass patches around the area, and uniquely today, the fish are on the current upper end of it. So they're sitting on the upper end of the grass line, where normally everybody else would always say that the fish are going to sit on the back end of that grass line, out of really kind of letting the current kind of go around the grass line or slow down going through the grass line. Well, these fish are sitting up on the upper end of it. So that may be a key today that guys are beginning to figure out, where they had said, you know, yesterday he pulled up on the spot and quickly caught 3 fish, 3 really good fish in less than an hour, you know, and today it took them a couple hours to even pull out a limit together in that same spot. So conditions are changing, the fish are moving around, but this team here seems to kind of have a little bit of it figured out. Got to pay attention to what's going on in the conditions, and you got to read your graphs, you got to know what's going on, and as you know what's going on, then you can learn to figure out that, hey, we can pattern this. We need to go on down the lake now and run these grass lines a little different than we may have ran them yesterday. Well, let's take another look at fish catch here before we go to break. They were able to put another one in the box, and that's the deal. We're sitting on 18 pounds right now. This fish catch here moved him on up the leaderboard a little more today. Only team we've seen with this size of a limit. So here we go to break. You guys take a break. We'll be right back. This is the Alabama Bass Trail from Pickwick Lake, brought to you by AM First. See you back in a minute.
The Alabama Bass Trail is brought to you by Phoenix Boats, Landers McClarty Chevrolet, McGraw-Webb Chevrolet, and by Academy Sports and Outdoors.
At Phoenix Boats, our passion for fishing is obvious. Whether it's a pro event or fishing with our family and friends,
we truly love the sport of fishing.
That's why our goal is to make every single Phoenix boat that goes out the door the best fishing platform it can be, in both design and construction.
We love to fish as much as anyone, and we believe it shows in every boat we build.
Phoenix Boats, built by anglers for anglers.
It's that time of year. The Lanners McCarty Chevrolet Red Tag event is on. We're talking $15,000 off select new Silverado 1500. That's a holiday savings extravaganza. The 2024 Equinox is here. It's easy on the gas, easy on the eyes, and easy on the payments too. As low as $196 a month for a brand new 2024 Equinox. It's the Lanners McCarty Chevrolet Red Tag event, saving you a whole lot of green. Only at the big store on University Drive in Huntsville.
Welcome to Minnow King. How can I help you?
Everything looks good. I'm friggin' starving, man. Been spawning all morning.
Ugh, TMI, bro. What do you want?
I'll take a Crush City freeloader and gizzard shad.
Anything to drink.
Water.
Pull ahead, please. Welcome to Minnow King.
We're gonna have what he's had. Yeah, throw me in a Ned BLT, too.
Pull ahead, please.
Calm down. Quit feeding him so much.
Hey, man, I'm trying to, man.
If you overfeed him, he's gonna hide under a log.
The perfect checking account doesn't exist. Not at a bank, that is. So why do you keep looking there? At AmFirst, you can get no minimum balance or monthly fees, an instant issue debit card, and free checks with unlimited check writing. But who doesn't want more? Like a rewards program you'll actually use, and convenient digital tools that make it easy to manage your account from anywhere. Now you could try and find that at a bank, or you could save yourself the trouble by checking with us.
Stetson Blaylock, Tom Otten, Hank Terry, let's go!
Garmin LiveScope, I tell you right now, if you don't have it, you are behind. It's just wild. It's like a video game.
If you do not have that Garmin LiveScope, you are definitely missing out.
Bassmaster Classic Champion!
I grew up in the South. I love it here. Like I love the homemade taste of Jack's. Right now, get our Bacon Ranch Big Jack. All beef patties, crispy bacon, and yeah, homemade ranch. Southern style. Ain't no other way. We're good, hard-working people serving great food.
Big game today. Big game today.
Good luck. Come on in for our Bacon Ranch Big Jack or get our classic with crinkle cut fries starting at $5.49. Stop by and say hey. Hey. I'm Donna Davis, and I am all about the South.
Welcome back to the Alabama Bass Trail presented by Phoenix Boats. We're about to wrap up our live coverage here on Pickwick Lake, but before that, we're going to get back out to Luke. I mean, that shot that he's on right now, that tells you all you need to know about Pickwick right now. It is current, all the current that you could possibly want is what Luke is looking at right now. I mean, you've got rocks, you've got jetties, and those guys have been there and have not moved. Since Luke got there this morning, they have not moved. Luke, have they caught any more since we were last with you?
So they haven't, but we had a couple of other teams while we were on break catch a couple of largemouth, not big ones, but certainly keepers on the other side of this current seam where these guys are. You get that floodgate current, and it'll create a seam really depending on where the rocks are. And these three phoenixes here in front of us that have been here all morning, all working together, and they caught some early. They're on one side of it, and then you can see on the other side of kind of the turbulent water, there's another boat on the other side, and we saw them catch a couple while we're at break. So it's not fast and furious, but up here the deal is, Kay, and you know this for many years of being around this area, is it's quality over quantity up here, especially in these conditions. But this is where these big bites are going to come from in this area.
Right. Well, we've seen some winning bags come from that area, and over the years, the lake is changing, and it does. There's cycles that the lakes go through, but certainly we've seen this lake change quite a bit. I do want to talk to you a little bit about some comments that we've had on the live. First of all, people are watching from Florida, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Canada, Alabama, Georgia, and Illinois. How cool is that?
Amazing. It's amazing. That is, when we did the first ABT 100 at Logan, we had so many folks, you broke all kind of records, and it was like that. It just blows my mind that our little old Alabama Bass Trail, we're doing big things. They're watching us. Our anglers are putting on a show, and thanks to everybody that's tuning in on a Saturday morning. We appreciate it. Each and every one of y'all from all over the place. A Canadian viewer. That's wild to me.
You know, it's really cool. You have anglers that participate in this tournament trail from 11 different states. And, you know, it's really cool to be able to showcase our state this way. The lake is not fishing like we thought it would earlier in the week. I do think the cold front had a lot to do with that. The wind, of course, I think has a lot to do with that. And it has a lot to do mentally. You know, we talked about this at Logan Martin. You know, when these anglers saw that change in conditions, you know, the mental part of that and staying in the game, you know, between the ears is pretty tough.
Yeah, it'll take out, I won't say half the field because all these folks are tough out here, but it will take out a certain percentage because you're already dreading it before you get out of bed to put on your layers to come fishing. Because look, they had a nice week out here weather-wise during practice, and you do have that sense of dread when you're like, oh no, I'm gonna have to go out there and fight this northwest wind, but just mentally thinking about, you know, will it affect your game plan that you had with the bluebird skies and you know, that high pressure? Will it change the bite that you were on after practice? And, you know, talking to a lot of our anglers last night at the meeting, they were hoping that the cold front would help because they had a bad practice in the in the nice weather. So, you know, you got a mix of both, but I certainly think adverse conditions are where you see the strongest mental game, you know, teams really prosper. We saw that at the ABT 100. You had people that were very upset about the weather, didn't want to be out there. Look, it was miserable. It was cold, but then you had teams like Andrew Loberg and Jed Lamb. It might as well have been sunny and 75 on them. They didn't care at all. And it was the same with Zeke Gossett and Ethan King at that event. So I think the people that can block it out and just focus on getting 5 bites are the ones that'll hoist the trophies and that big check this afternoon.
You know, a couple of the things that we talked about after that event specifically was the equipment. We saw, you know, live wells frozen. We saw coil tags frozen, you know, and things like that. Being able to manage your equipment. You talked about Wesley Sams and Craig Daniels. Their trolling motors are shot. So they're dealing with those issues, and being able to manage all of that and stay in the game is going to be the key to it.
No doubt about it, and you know, we're fortunate here. I'll get, like Jason said earlier, I'll get a shameless sponsor plug in. You know, we run Pro Guide batteries. Our leaderboard is powered by Pro Guide batteries, and I personally run Pro Guide batteries, and they perform so good in the cold. But with lithium, you hear that a lot, and that was actually what Craig was saying. They did not have Pro Guides, and he said, I don't know if it's the cold, I don't know what's happened, but they were done. I mean, they were absolutely drifting around up here aimlessly, and he was very upset. You could tell they weren't in his boat. He said, man, I don't have lithiums, and he was kind of blaming that. But again, though, just to kind of shout out to the folks at Pro Guide, man, I'm telling you, I've not had any issues at all in the freezing cold whatsoever with my Pro Guides, and that is something that they are very proud of as well. But again, you got to maintain that equipment.
You know, and just solid people. You do.
Yes.
You do. And, you know, in different events and things like that, you know, the way the Alabama Bass Trail runs, we don't allow you to trailer and go to different boat ramps because part of the game, part of the fishing game is everybody starts from the same spot and they got to weigh in at the same spot. Managing your fish, managing your equipment, managing your time is all part of the game of fishing. And you're really betting on yourself to make sure that you can manage all of that stuff. So it is an interesting sport, and when you consider it's not just about catching the fish, it's about making sure that they're alive when you come to the bump sink, making sure that they measure, making sure that you have all of the rules and everything that you're supposed to have and that you can get to and from your spot. Maintaining that equipment, maintaining yourself is a lot of the game. So I just thought that was interesting when we see this. I still believe the North guys are going to have to be nicer because I believe that that's the reason why they always get bad weather. I believe in the South guys are a little bit nicer.
And we've got a lot of teams that fish both, you know. But for sure, you see a lot of familiar names on both rosters. But, but for me, I will say, South guys, I got a standing ovation, Miss Kay. I had to ask for it. I did ask for the standing ovation, but at the meeting, I got a standing ovation from those guys. Now I begged for it, but the North guys, complete crickets. I'll tell this last night. So I had Hudson and Ryder, my two boys with me, two of my boys, and we were at the registration, and I told a joke about Darien when I was doing my live briefing about what they could expect, and didn't get any laughs. Okay, it was a tough crowd last night at the North meeting.
Tough crowd.
Driving home, Hudson looks at me and goes, "Dad, you died up there." So thanks ABT North Anglers for making me look like a dork in front of my kids, even though they already know I am and think I am, but that just confirmed it that much further in front of 450 ABT North faces last night.
I'm going to attempt to do the da-na-na, da-na-na. I have breaking news. Breaking news. I just got a report from the water. Damian Willis Tyler Kiker has 20 pounds in the boat.
Let's go. There we go.
I think they were like boat 150 something, 151, 152.
Yeah, they were way
so
down
they
there.
still got a good ways. They've got a good ways to fish. So breaking news, so that puts us at a team with 17 pounds. Ty Cox, Cameron Gautney, Damian Willis, Tyler Kiker saying that they have 20 pounds in the boat. They still have probably, another 4.5 hours, 5 hours to fish. So going to be an interesting weigh-in for them. But again, they already have that in the boat. They got to maintain it and manage it till they get back here at McFarland Park. I don't know where they are, so I don't have a tracker on them. So going to be interesting. I'm excited to see that. See them come in and see what they have for sure. It's
when we start
fun,
talking 20-pound bags, we all get fired.
I know.
I
get kind of fired up about a
20-pound
bag. You dadgum right, I do. Especially looking at that current. I know we've seen it rolling a little bit more than this before, but man, everybody's doing what they got to do. I mean, got their life jackets on and casting, and I would have my life jacket on if I was there. That's for sure.
Yeah, you don't want to be up here without a PFD. That is 1,000,000%. It's the law. You know, when you get this close to the dam, you better have it on. But then, just for safety reasons too, you're a knucklehead if you don't have it on up here with the water conditions how they are. You fall in, you'll be at McFarland before you can bat an eye. Pretty much, this thing's moving so fast today. But no, I've certainly seen it worse than this because they'll have all the gates on. But it's rocking pretty good. And for me, it's always so. You just have to respect nature almost, right? Like the fact that this much water moves through this system is absolutely incredible to be this close to it and hear it coming over, watch it spilling over the dam, and to see it fly through this end of the horseshoe that's most of the time dry. You know, when the gates aren't open, it's really, really crazy to see it. No matter how many times I've sat right here in my life, it's still, you always just kind of get taken back by it.
I know Damian Willis, Tyler Kiker, they have 2 wins already on the Alabama Bass Trail. They've won at Wheeler, they've won at Smith. They really want to get up there close to where Mitchell, Candler, McCollum, they want to be in that consideration with most wins on the Alabama Bass Trail. They finished very high in the points several years here in the Alabama Bass Trail. One of the teams that you consider mostly on the Coosa, but if they can pull off a win here at Pickwick and have one on Wheeler, they might know a little something about the Tennessee River as well.
They may be Tennessee River rats too. You know, I think that the Coosa, Darian mentioned it earlier, you know, you think swim jigging down there on the shore grass, you think skipping docks, that kind of stuff, but those Coosa River anglers are fantastic anglers at breaking down current as well. They don't get the amount of current that we get on the Tennessee River at times, but they all know how to navigate it and how to fish it, how to present their bait to the fish in those situations. So, you know, and I think that translates no matter where you go in the country if you're on a body of water with current.
Well, I'll also point out to the viewers here on the Alabama Bass Trail Live, those 2 gentlemen are part of what I refer to as the peanut gallery. So I can assure you I have gotten some not so nice text messages from them. As a matter of fact, when I picked up the phone last night after the meeting, I had 34 text messages just in that group. So that was an
Gallery
interesting conversation. So.
Showing up. They show up all the time, no matter if it's Chamber of Commerce weather or cold. The peanut gallery is in full effect.
If I can almost tell you that if Damian Willis and Tyler Kiker are catching them, they've talked crap all week long. So I can assure you that if they're catching them, they've talked crap all week long about how bad the tournament was going to be, how bad the wind was going to blow, how cold it was going to be, and that we should cancel this tournament. So that's kind of the word that I was getting. But that always tells you, kind of like what Darian was saying earlier, that's when you know they're smashing them, is when they're asking you to, cancel the tournament and all that. They just want to talk. They just want to talk. That's what they want to do. So, but let's, hopefully we'll have Darian up here in just a little bit. Maybe he's on another team that we can talk to. I was hoping we could catch back up with Nolan Spencer, Jonathan Reese. That was one of the teams that I had on my list. I was trying to think of the ones that you and I had picked and try to see if we could catch up with some of them. So I hope we can get an update from some of those guys. But I do see that Darian is on a Phoenix boat. No, maybe not. I can't see. Can't see on my screen here.
We're hooked up right here. We saw this team catch about a 3-pound smallmouth while we were at the break. Here we go. They got the net out. I'm not seeing it jump yet.
Fish on. Digging.
Doubled up Darian.
Oh!
You'll see this on a spinning rod.
There we go. There we go.
Ours is a drum. It went from excitement to they're not very excited anymore. Darian, what you got over there?
Sun done came up. That's hard much.
Sun came up, Josh Butt says. Luke, that's Josh Butt, by the way.
Oh, buddy, I knew it. I heard Josh Butts. I knew who you were on.
My shirt last night.
Hey, Josh Butt says, how big is that smallmouth, by the way?
3 1/4, 3 1/2.
3 1/4, 3 1/2. Josh Butt smallmouth. Look at how pretty. He says they got one big one. How big's the big one?
Oh, sorry. Other one's about 5.
How much y'all got for 5 fish, you think?
Maybe 13.
13 pounds, 14 pounds. And Josh Butts has been known, if he says they got 13, 14, it could end up being 17 and a quarter by the time they get to weigh in.
I was going to say, he got about 18.
It could end up being 11.
He said it could end up being 11. He said, I don't think he's got 11.
Darian Butts is one of those anglers that even through your microphone, I feel like I'm there,
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that being the case. I'm just glad to see excitement. That's the first excitement we've had all day. There you go.
Freaking pumped up, boys.
There we go. He smoked it too, didn't he? He smoked it too, didn't he? He smoked it too, didn't he?
Hey, hammer. Can't be showing this.
They can't see it. I told him you were throwing a black buzzbait.
That's what I'm doing.
On a spinning rod.
Yeah, you just can't see it because it's subsurface.
Josh won the best sweatshirt of the night award from me last night with a Keith Whitley sweatshirt. That was amazing.
You hear old drag?
I heard it. Luke just, without even asking him, he just said you won best sweatshirt of the year.
I told you.
Luke, he actually already told me to ask you about that right as we pulled up, but we were both talking, so I didn't ask you yet. And then he just said, I told you.
It's incredible.
Who don't like Keith Whitley?
No clue.
You don't know?
No, I do. I'm saying I don't know who doesn't like him.
Whoa, I was about to say. That that man can make a transvestite cry. You know what I mean?
Well, we've got a lot of energy right here, right before we're going to end live here in a little bit, but we're going to end this segment, go to a commercial break. I'm going to watch Josh Butts and company and this energy they've got, and we'll go to commercial, and then we'll wrap this thing up here in a few minutes. And yeah, so we'll see y'all back in just a few minutes on Alabama Bass Trail Live from Pickwick.
The Alabama Bass Trail is sponsored by Rapala, VMC, Crush City, TH Marine.
At Phoenix Boats, our passion for fishing is obvious. Whether it's a pro event or fishing with our family and friends,
we truly love the sport of fishing.
That's why our goal is to make every single Phoenix boat that goes out the door the best fishing platform it can be in both design and construction.
We love to fish as much as anyone, and we believe it shows in every boat we build.
Phoenix Boats, built by anglers for anglers.
I leave nothing to chance when it comes to hooks. They are the most critical part of the equation.
This is truly the best hook I've ever used.
Thinner, stronger, slicker, all the pluses that you really want in a hook. That red line right in the roof of her mouth, exactly where you want to get them.
When you have the opportunity to create something good, you might as well make this great, and I think that's what we did with the Red Line series of hooks.
The TH Marine Hydrowave H2 KVD edition is a surefire way to ignite a feeding frenzy. The Hydrowave utilizes a sound-emitting technology that imitates bait fish and other feeding fish below the surface that preys on the competitive nature of bass and other game fish to get you more bites. The Hydrowave is another way that TH Marine has you covered from transom to trolling motor.
Big companies get bigger and bigger and talk about their fancy labs where they study fish behavior, but then they all go golfing on the weekend. We don't have a large laboratory to test baits. Why, you ask? We don't need a big laboratory because our pros fish, our employees fish, our salespeople fish, our suppliers fish, our mold builders fish, our owners fish, and our kids fish. This is our laboratory. Our R&D comes from time on the water, learning how to make fish bite. We don't have other hobbies. We fish. We fish all year in all conditions across the whole country. All that time on the water brings us thousands of hours of testing new products and improving current ones for all species. We're a family-owned U.S. company that has many of our products made in America by American workers. The products we don't make in America, we make in Guatemala, which supports many families in that country as well.
Hear that sizzling? That's bologna whispering. I'm back. The Big Bologna Breakfast Sandwich is back at Jack's. 2 thick-cut slices of fried bologna, eggs, and cheese on a Texas toast for $3.99. Jack's, all about the South.
The Alabama Bass Trail is brought to you by Phoenix Boats, Landers McClarty Chevrolet, McGraw-Webb Chevrolet, and by Academy Sports and Outdoors.
At Phoenix Boats, our passion for fishing is obvious. Whether it's a pro event or fishing with our family and friends,
we truly love the sport of fishing.
That's why our goal is to make every single Phoenix boat that goes out the door the best fishing platform it can be in both design and construction.
We love to fish as much as anyone, and we believe it shows in every boat we build.
Phoenix Boats, built by anglers for anglers.
It's that time of year. The Leonard McCarty Chevrolet Red Tag event is on. We're talking $15,000 off select new Silverado 1500. That's a holiday savings extravaganza. The 2024 Equinox is here. It's easy on the gas, easy on the eyes, and easy on the payments too. As low as $196 a month for a brand new 2024 Equinox. It's the Leonard McCarty Chevrolet Red Tag event, saving you a whole lot of green. Only at the big store on University Drive in Huntsville.
Welcome to Minnow King. How can I help you?
Everything looks good. I'm friggin' starving, man. Been spawning all morning.
Ugh, TMI, bro. What do you want?
I'll take a Crush City freeloader and gizzard shad.
Anything to drink.
Water.
Pull ahead, please. Welcome to Minnow King.
We're gonna have what he's had. Yeah, throw me in a Ned BLT, too.
Pull ahead, please.
Calm down. Quit feeding so much.
Oh, yeah, man, I'm trying to, man.
If you overfeed him, he's gonna hide under a log.
The perfect checking account doesn't exist. Not at a bank, that is. So why do you keep looking there? At AmFirst, you can get no minimum balance or monthly fees, an instant issue debit card, and free checks with unlimited check writing. But who doesn't want more? Like a rewards program you'll actually use, and convenient digital tools that make it easy to manage your account from anywhere. Now you could try and find that at a bank, or you could save yourself the trouble by checking with us.
Stetson Blaylock, Todd Auten, Hank Fury, let's go!
Garmin Live Scope, I tell you right now, if you don't have it, you are behind. It's just wild. It's like a video game.
If you do not have that Garmin Live Scope, you are definitely missing out.
Bassmaster Classic Champion!
Well, here we are. It is the end of the day for the live coverage at this point on the water, and this is our Bush Light breakdown. So we want to take a minute here and kind of just go around the lake and tell everybody what we saw today. So we made the run down here to Trace Bridge. We literally put in just right over here. The bridge is in behind us. We never went above the ridge. We spent most of our time down south right here, and we made a long run to start out first thing this morning, caught up with leaf pits. Caught a fish pretty quick, but a bunch of other teams kind of moved in on the area that he was in, which kind of led to me that, hey, there's some fish catching going on here. Lee said that the bite was really kind of weird. He didn't elaborate anymore on really what that meant, but, you know, kind of my guess is the bite's kind of slowed down, or it's kind of just gotten kind of fickle for him. Said that they were there. The few teams that we stopped on there said they were there during the day yesterday, later in the day, and the bites are really good. They were able to catch 2 or 3 fish that were really good size pretty quick. And the more that we moved around, that's what we heard teams say. So that whole side of the bank, we ran that this morning. We spent most of our time really kind of just picking off teams one after another, and we've seen teams catch limits. We just caught up with Mr. Cox right before we got off the water, and they have 18 pounds. Now I know another team we're going to hear about here in a minute has more than that, but 18 pounds right now is the biggest we've seen down on this end of the lake. It has been a treacherous run. The current is really rolling down this way, and the wind is blowing back against it. So teams are going to have to make a really tough run when they begin to head back to take off back to launch this afternoon. So it's going to be really important that they manage their fish well, manage their time also to be able to make it back to takeoff. So lots of fish catching, lots of moving baits, crankbaits. We've seen rattle traps. We've seen also a lot of swim jigs and chatterbaits this morning. So working the grass, working the hard spots, and that's what we've seen on this end of the lake. Darian, it's your point at this point to tell us a little bit more about what you've seen kind of in between here in the dam. So, Darian, what you got?
Jason, I'm just glad to hear that you use the word fickle. That's a word that I don't use enough on a day-to-day basis, and I need to break that one out more often. But the bite has been fickle. It has been a little fickle the morning. We've had, this morning was actually good. We started at the dam, and there was a lot of fish catching going on. Like I mentioned, a lot of it was stuff that was 100 yards away, 50 yards away, camera angles pointing here, and there's fish catching over there, or you see this guy catch one, and the next guy behind him is also catching one. A lot was going on first thing this morning, and Luke elaborated to it, which is once people start getting in there and everyone starts idling around, and since the water's up, you can run in the horseshoe right now. The transducer's pinging, and everybody's got 3, 4, 5, 6 transducers on their boats right now. Once the fish feel all of that, it slows down up there. So it was kind of cool. We were able to shoot it while it was a lot going on, and it was fun this morning. After that, Luke was able, we swapped spots, so Luke covered up in the horseshoe. But then we ran around kind of, I don't know, the upper mid-lake, everything above 7 Mile. And man, it's been very fickle. There's been people, 0 fish. A lot of people 0 fish. A lot of people that we expected who would have fish, 0 fish, 1 fish, 1 bite, decent practice, 1 fish. So I would say this stretch has been weird. However, the people who are catching them are doing something a little bit different. Josh Butts is throwing a little bit different bait than we've seen, in a different way than we've seen it. He actually asked not to say anything about it, so I'm not even going to mention it, but he's doing something a little bit different than we've seen anyone else do. The other team that we saw that had 5 fish, they were throwing the exact same bait that other people were throwing. They were just had it rigged differently than anyone else. So I don't know how much that's going to actually matter, but it is interesting to see the 2 people that we've seen today that have 5 fish have caught them in a different way, or at least rigged in a different way than anyone else that we've seen. And then lastly, one thing I wanted to touch on was one of the last boats that we talked to mentioned there's a really big bag in the horseshoe. They were beside someone this morning who was catching a lot of fish, and they said that they saw them catch 3 really big ones. He didn't say what it was. He didn't say, he just did this, and I don't know, that's somewhere around a 35-pound smallmouth. I don't know, so I don't know what that means, but interesting to see what the weigh-ins are going to look like. As always, it's fun because these guys don't give up. It's 11:30 now. The guys don't give up. They fish hard all the way to weigh-ins. It'll be very interesting to see. Luke Duncan, I'm throwing it to you if you're ready. I want to hear what's going on at the horseshoe.
Well, I'm ready. I haven't seen any 35-pound smallmouth. We've been looking for those, Darian, but I haven't been able to find one of those just yet. But we did get, right before we went to that last commercial break, Damian Willis, Tyler Kiker, they're up here in this area. They've got 20 pounds. We've heard of another couple of good bags up here as well. You can see over my shoulder, plenty of company in the horseshoe fishing these current seams from the Wilson Dam where we're getting that floodgate. And I'll let you get Britton to pan over here so you can see right through the trees there. See that water coming over. That's all extra, flood gate water, not your typical, current generation from the dam for power usage. So this is all extra. So this area normally does not have current. If you've never fished here before, this is actually where a lot of smallmouth come to spawn. It's really a protective bay, essentially. But you've got all this water behind us, all this basically white water. It's like rapids, and some of this was dry just earlier this week, but a couple of these boats in particular right over my shoulder, these guys were here first thing this morning. They have not moved from that little current seam, but you can see the current running. But that's what we've been seeing on this end is just, and it's very typical of what I thought we might see. A lot of swim baits, a lot of spinner baits, some Ned rigs, shaky heads going on, a few red DT6s and 10s going on as well up here. We've seen fish get caught on all of that, but it'll be interesting to see what kind of weights come to the weigh-in stage this afternoon. To me, on the stage, John Simpson and Daniel up there, will we see that 25-pound bag of smallmouth that I sure hoped we would at the first of the week? These Alabama Bass Trail North anglers absolutely bring it, so it wouldn't shock me, even though they're dealing with adverse conditions weather-wise today. Miss Kay, I'm excited about that 3 p.m. weigh-in. I'm also excited about getting back up there and getting me a Jack's Biscuit and some Mountain Dew. Let's close this thing out.
Guys, thank y'all for weathering the weather today. It's been quite brutal. Some would say this was worse than Logan Martin just because of the amount of wind that you guys had to endure today. We started off pretty hot. I mean, Jason got on Tracy Robinson, Dustin Robinson. They had 3 fish for 12 pounds. Good start to their day. We've seen a 5-pound smallmouth. Jonathan Vinson reported that they caught. But the story probably of the last hour was Josh Butts and Stephen McAvoy with those 2 big catches that we saw on camera. I know Darian's there with them. He'll probably follow up with them, get some stuff for TV while we're there. They have about 13 pounds. Ty Cox, Cameron Gaultney, been a few years since those guys fished with us, but they're sitting on 18 pounds right now, and they probably have 4 more hours of fishing to go. Damian Willis, Tyler Kiker, they self-reported 20 pounds of smallmouth, and they are up by the dam. They are close to where you are. So it's been a busy day. We haven't seen as many fish catches on camera as we certainly would like to, but you saw the very different ways people are catching fish. I had someone comment to me on live or on my phone that said, looked like Mitch Mitchell, Candler McCollum was fishing in the ocean. That's how it looked out there with the waves that they were seeing. So a lot of different tactics going on, a lot of different baits and things being used today. So But it all comes down to 3 o'clock this afternoon. Going to take a little while on the way-in, guys. This is 225 boat field. Last flight's due in at 5 o'clock. So some of these guys have another 5.5 hours to fish. So going to be a real interesting weigh-in. You can tune in today at alabamabasstrail.org. Click live weigh-in. You can watch it here on the Alabama Bass Trail Tournament Series Facebook page, as well as Alabama Bass Trail TV on YouTube. Thank you for tuning in today. Great numbers. Thank you for all the comments and the love that you've shown today. We'll see you back at 3 o'clock. Y'all have a blessed day.
This live coverage of the Alabama Bass Trail has been presented by AmFirst Credit Union and sponsored by Phoenix Boats, Landers McLarty Chevrolet, McGraw-Webb Chevrolet, Jax, Garmin, Rapala, BMC, Crush City, Pro Guide Batteries, Mountain Dew, TH Marine, American Baitworks, and Sweet Home Alabama.